Hey guys, welcome back to Team APS. Paul here. So, today I wanted to share with you guys some ideas for fun Yu-Gi-Oh! Rogue decks that you can build this month. Because, as we found out from Konami, we're not going to be getting a ban list for another few weeks, so what better time to try something new, especially if you're tired of just playing Sky Strikers, playing Salamangrates, playing Thunder Dragons. So yeah, I've got 5 of them, I think they're all really good, and a few of them are actually new picks that I don't usually mention, so let's hop in. First is Cyber Dragons, a deck that you guys know I've been playing for a while now. I really enjoy this deck. I actually used it at YCS Atlanta and felt really good about the deck. Up until now, I would say it's been a pretty decent rogue option on its own. I mean, it's managed to actually top some YCS events. It's got some really strong assets. It can actually OTK people kind of out of nowhere. You can use Cyber Dragon to steal monsters in your opponent's extra monster zone and make Chimera Tech Mega Fleet, which is a huge asset. It's a pretty good deck for blind going second, and that is something that's really valuable to have these days. It's just the ability to go second and actually feel confident in your strategy. And it's Cyber Dragons. Who doesn't like Cyber Dragons? Now, what's cool is this deck just got access to Cyber Dragon Naxter. It released in dual power, and let me just say, that card is everything for this deck. Like, it doesn't make it like immediately top tier, I should get that out of the way, but Cyber Dragon Naxter really does add a new dimension to Cyber Dragons. It solves a lot of different problems with, consistency, with recovery. It extends combos really well. It even lets you make, combinations with decks like Invoked, because you can actually use Naxter's effect to revive Invoked Mechaba, which is crazy. I actually haven't played that deck yet, Invoked Cyber Dragons. I've just been playing mostly Pure. I also think that Naxter opens up a lot more OTK potential. It makes running cards like Overload Fusion and Power Bond a little bit easier, even Cyberload Fusion, just because it gets more warm bodies in the field more easily, and that's huge. It's level 1, you can use it with 1-for-1, you can summon it like with Cyber Dragon Core's graveyard effects. Like it's a lot of great things for the deck. But even without it, it's a really strong deck. If you like just Zane Truesdale legacy stuff, it's good. It's a little bit pricey. Some of the cards have been rising up a little bit since Naxter's come out. Some of the secret rares, Cyber Rev System, Cyber Emergency, those cards. Obviously, it's nothing compared to trying to get ultimate rare copies of some of the older Cyber Dragon cards like I am, but that's a different story. Yeah, this deck is good. It's got good matchups across the board, I would say. It struggles maybe a little bit against things like Thunder Dragon, Colossus, but what deck doesn't? But I do think it does pretty well against Salamangrates, pretty well against Sky Strikers. It's a lot of fun. It's got a little bit more depth than you would think, so give it a try. Second deck is one that I actually didn't think I would include, but that's Spirals. Spirals, if you guys, have been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For a few years, you'll know that Spirals back in 2017 had a huge impact on the game. I mean, it was basically a tier 0 deck, if only for a short while. And for good reason. The deck was able to pump out lots of link monsters. The deck could make, really powerful boards that had things like Spiral Sleeper equipped with like, Spiral Last Resort, and it's a lot of crazy stuff. The deck since has been nerfed. It's lost access to a lot of things. Quick Fix, which doesn't have a hard once return, is now limited to 1, so it's much harder to abuse. Spiral Resort is limited to 1, so it's a lot harder to abuse. But what I like about the deck is that it can actually still play with those limitations. Quick Fix is something that you can still, revive and use its effect multiple times, even if you can't like spam Machine Dupe, for instance. Also, Spiral Resort, it's at 1, so you would think, oh, it's really hard to run it with like Master Plan, because she has to search a copy of Spiral Resort from the deck to get her full searching effect, and like if you only have 1, you've already seen it, or you use it to search existing Spiral cards, then you won't be able to do that combo. So how does this work? Well, they're able to use things like Nightmare Unicorn, which can actually return your Spiral Resort back into the deck. That's huge, and then you can search it again, and then you can actually use its effect again because it doesn't have a hard once return. So it's really crazy. Now, I actually included this deck because I played against it at YCS Atlanta. I played against a Spiral player. It was a very crazy, intense match. It went to game 3, it went down to the wire. I managed to squeak it out with a very lucky evenly matched, but this deck is insane, the boards that it can make. I had to deal with a Sleeper equipped with Last Resort, I had to deal with a Trigate Wizard that had a Negate, I had to deal with Boral Sword. It still is a very fun link spam strategy, and if you like them or if you can afford them, it does combine really well with Dangers. Obviously that's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you do have access to the Danger cards, they make the deck even better. I think it can still function pretty well on its own. But yeah, I think all around Spirals are just fun, and things like Double Helix are still good monsters, So I would definitely recommend giving this deck a try. It's not terribly expensive to pick up, give or take some extra deck cards. So yeah, gets my seal of approval. So deck number 3 is going to be Zombie Control, and I think this is a deck that I never thought I would really be talking about, but ever since the release of Zombie Horde last year, the structure deck, this is actually a totally viable strategy. Doom King Ballardrock is one of the better designed boss monsters in my opinion. I really like the way that it synergizes with the zombie just mechanics. I would want you to run Zombie World, you need to have a field spell in order for it to special summon itself back, and Zombie World's of course going to be the best one, and it can summon itself back during each standby phase, and even though it summons in defense, the fact that it's there is a huge deal because anytime a zombie monster's effect activates, you're able to use one of Ballardrock's effects. You can either negate the monster's effect that just activated, or you can banish a card from your opponent's field or graveyard. You can use each of those effects once. So this opens up a lot of control. It makes it really difficult for your opponent to actually play around Ballardrock because they're going to either have to lose a card or they're going to have their effect negated, and that's really tough to deal with, a monster that has that benefit, in addition to working really well with the rest of the zombie strategy. Examples like Vampire Sucker gets you a draw, that kind of thing. You can even negate hand traps like Ash Blossom because it's a zombie. I think that's actually a crazy fun coincidence. And if you're using this with Zombie World, it gets even better because all your opponent's monsters' effects, they're all zombies, so they can all trigger Doom King. That's what makes it hard to deal with. And then if you're going to run Floodgates, you've got Rivalry of Warlords, which when combined with Zombie World can make it extremely difficult for your opponent to play because their monsters are all zombies, Rivalry won't let them summon new things, and if they don't have immediate access to something like Twin Twisters or Evenly Matched to deal with those cards, they usually just can't do anything. And so, that's sort of a wrap, right? I think this deck's good. It's pretty consistent. It's pretty fun. It's very easy to get your hands on all of these cards. I mean, it's a structure deck, so, Deck 4 is an old favorite in Necroz. So Necroz are actually all getting reprinted in dual power, you guys know. And so now that they're actually easy to get and don't have insanely high price tags, though I hear some of them are still short printed like Brionic, this deck is more accessible now. Necroz monsters are really strong. They basically are the anti-extra deck. And that's a really big deal because, you've got Unicorn, who just straight up negates extra deck monsters' effects while it's on the field. You've got Brionic, who can bounce monsters that were summoned from the extra deck, 2 of them. Necroz of Clazolis, which can negate their effects and reduce their attack. It's really insane because the deck is very consistent. It actually got access to Shrit again, which is a big deal. And I think that, honestly, on the next ban list, I wouldn't be surprised to see Konami take even more things off. Maybe Shrit will go to 2 or Unicorn will go to 2, and then the deck will be closer to the full power that it once was. The deck, like I said, though, it's consistent, it's anti-extra deck, but it doesn't mean that it's without combos. What I like about Necroz the most is that despite being kind of an anti-meta deck, it doesn't play in the typical boring, slow, just I'm going to set 5 traps and just, summon a Fossil Dyna and sit here. It can make combos. It works really well with extra Foolish Burial. You can send Herald and get searches. There's a cool combo with Zaborg where you can actually get rid of 8 cards in your opponent's extra deck. It worked extremely well with the new Incantation monsters that are really good ritual support. So in addition to things like Manju and Preparation of Rites, you actually have access to those monsters that give you a lot of free tribute fodder. And yeah, all the cards are hollow. So no matter whether you're playing the old Necroz cards or you're playing the newly reprinted ones from Dual Power, everything is hollow. And last but not least is the Endymion deck. Now this comes out a little bit later this month. I'm very excited about this structure deck. It's the Order of the Spellcasters. It basically, reintroduces the Endymion archetype, Magical Citadel. It's like how Zombie Horde kind of revived the Zombie World strat. Same idea. Now these monsters use spell counters, and if you've played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, you'll know that decks that use counters tend not to be great. This is kind of the exception to that rule. These monsters are able to accumulate spell counters extremely quickly and get some very powerful effects from them. All the Endymion monsters allow you to summon themselves from the Pendulum Zones. Forgot to mention, they're all Pendulum monsters. And then they can summon additional spellcaster monsters from either your hand or the extra deck or even the deck. They've got big boss man Endymion Sorcerer Lord, I don't know what his name is. He's good. He can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects when you've got spell counters in the field. He's really big. He's insane. The fact of the matter is, though, this deck combines really well with the Mythical Beast archetype, specifically Jackal King, who can actually get monster negations out. So effectively, you can have a lot of negations on board between him and Jackal King, and a lot of resilience in monsters that don't, they either can't be targeted, don't leave the field. It combines very well with a lot of the Mythical Beast support cards. I've seen people use, Beast Magic Attack, for instance, and Magical Bestiary, those types of things. Works really well with Electromite. Kind of reminds you of the old Pendulum Magician style of play, where these monsters are really easy to search from the deck, and then they get floating effects when they die. So yeah, all in all, it's a really fun deck. A lot of people actually predict that it could have a place in the metagame. Of course, it's going to struggle a little bit with, Anti-Spell Fragrance. That is a card, so unless that suddenly gets banned or something, then that will definitely be this deck's kryptonite. But it's something that I really do want to try out. I'm going to be picking up the structure deck. I already have like my whole collection of Mythical Beast cards sitting in my binder ready to use with this. So yeah, if you're interested in this, it's going to be coming out in just a couple of weeks, and I'm sure you can find lots of deck profiles on this and actually all of the decks. I don't normally do deck profile, like, combo videos very much on this channel, so a channel I would strongly recommend, there's actually two of them, Dual Entertainment and El Exordio del Duelista. Great deck profiles. I think they've covered most of the decks on this list, so I'll link their channels in the video description if you want a good look at, how to build them, how to play them, some statistics on them. And yeah, so that's going to be it for my recommendations for really fun rogue decks. I didn't want to call this like a budget thing because a lot of these decks can get a little pricey, but I do think that they're all very good, picks. They can hold their own, and they're a lot of fun to play. So yeah, that's the video. Real quick too, I guess I should mention, I got this box of Dual Power today. There's only one. I'm getting 12 boxes of this, I believe. They should be coming in very soon. So instead of doing another boring opening video like I tend to do with this stuff, I thought it might be more fun to do this in a live stream. So if you guys would like that, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. I would probably do like a live stream on Friday morning, Friday like afternoon or something. And so we can do like Q&A while we open boxes, and you can ask us questions. I'll try to have like Larry and Trell and some other people. So yeah. All right. Anyway, until then, that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know any other budget or fun or rogue or any combination of those decks that you guys are playing down in the comments. And yeah, oh, check out our Discord server. Of course, I always forget to plug that, but we have a Discord server. It's a really cool place. We actually talk about things and argue about Yu-Gi-Oh! It's fun. All right, sorry, I've actually gone on long enough. I'll see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.